Hello everyone, welcome to the 2D Sportsbar. We're not going to have a full-on proper episode today. We've got a little bit of a retrospective on the European Championships. I've got Sean with me.
Hello.
And we're going to go through England's European history and see how bad we did in some and how well we did in others.
It's coming home. It's coming home. It's coming.
And then we will end with a little bit about the upcoming Euros. Started and founded in 1958 by a man called Henry Delaunay, who wanted to push for the competition in 1927. He was a French Football Federation secretary and was good friends with Jules Rimet, who famously put together the World Cup. They both put together the European Championships, but unfortunately it was 3 years after his death. And also the trophy is named after him. The first competition was in 1960 and was only qualified teams were 4 teams because some teams refused to be part of it. England refused, West Germany, Italy and Netherlands.
I know a little bit about that. I know that England used to play the home nations tournaments quite a lot back then, and they regarded that as a standard equal to what was happening in Europe. So maybe a bit of arrogance by the home nations at that point.
Yeah, so there's only 4 teams, and the champions for the first title was Soviet Union in 1964. It was again 4 teams, but there was only Denmark, Spain, Hungary, and the former winners Soviet Union, and Spain won that one. And then the third tournament was England's first participation in the event, as we're going to do an England-centric episode. So after winning the World Cup in 1966, Sir Alf Ramsey's England side went to Italy for the UEFA European Championship in 1968, where in the semi-final, I'd say, because there's only 4 teams, they lost 1-0 to Yugoslavia and then won the third place playoff. So they technically came third.
See, that for me is quite interesting because they obviously won the World Cup 2 years before, and it's the same year, I think, that it's the same year Manchester United win the European Club Cup with like a lot of the England players like Bobby Charlton, Alex Stepney, Nobby Stiles. They're all in the squad, so it's not a bad squad. It's pretty much a lot of the same players from the World Cup. So it's surprising that they didn't win it. I wonder what the reaction was at home, if people thought, if they were favourites or not.
Yeah, so they were heavy favourites going into the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, obviously it was only a 2-game, win the first game, you're in the final. And obviously the Yugoslavia team won 1-0 with an 86th minute goal. And then the third place playoff, we played Soviet Union, and it was Bobby Charlton who scored and Sir Geoff Hurst with a 2-0 win.
Okay.
On that one. And then England actually went 8 years without qualifying for the championships when they didn't qualify in 1972 and 1976 under the managers of Ramsey and is it Don Revie?
Don Revie, the Leeds manager.
Leeds manager, yeah.
Very known for. He was known for playing a distinctive type of football, probably not too dissimilar to what Gareth Southgate plays now. Quite boring defensive, long ball-esque, and Brian Clough was his nemesis and played the opposite. So,
yeah. Have you seen that interview with Brian Clough and Don Revie?
Oh, it's brilliant. They use it at the start of the Brian Clough documentary about Nottingham Forest. I think it's called I Believe in Miracles, the documentary. And it's basically Don Revie is slagging off Brian Clough, saying, I've left you the championship winning team, as in Leeds, and you couldn't win anything with them. And then the presenter's giving Brian Clough a hard time too. And then the documentary starts with the host saying to Brian Clough, so you've been sacked from Leeds. What are you going to do next? And lo and behold, we all know he goes off and wins 2 European Cups with Nottingham Forest.
It's interesting as well because they seem to be like politely going at each other with the presenter there trying to keep the peace, and they're just like politely trading barbs on Match of the Day or whatever it was.
Yeah, I don't know what it could have been. Just like some northern TV, maybe. I don't know. felt very northern, like the whole interview. Brian Clough's brilliant. He's fantastic. He should have been an England manager.
Probably the one English manager that should have been, like the most notorious that should have been England manager. Harry Redknapp maybe as well in that category. Anyone else you can think of?
Yeah.
I mean, it was either Harry Redknapp or Roy Hodgson, wasn't it, 2012? But obviously we'll get to that later on.
Yeah. I also have another fact.
Go for it.
You know the Panenka penalty?
Yes.
That was first done, obviously, by Anton Panenka in the 1976 European Championships. The Euros gave us the Panenka-style penalty.
England's next appearance at the European Championships in 1980.
Yeah. So that is a very interesting European Championship because I know that I think Kevin Keegan was the top scorer in the group stages, but I don't think England got out of the groups. And it was well known for being that there was a lot of violence between Italian fans and the English fans. So it was almost like the start of the hooligan culture on the continent.
Yeah. So they stopped the like the tournament you mentioned earlier, the homegrown tournament with England, Scotland. That got stopped in the mid-80s due to, poor attendance and also hooliganism in the games.
Yeah,
put a stop to that.
So it's a shame, really, because there's a lot of players from that era. You kind of associate the 80s with like the doldrums of British football. But if we have a look at that team at the time, you had Stevie Coppell in there, you had Kevin Keegan, you had Ray Wilkins, fantastic footballer, Ray Clements, Emlyn Hughes. There was loads of like really good footballers.
Hoddle as well.
Peter Short. Hoddle's like, they always say that Hoddle is the type of player that if he had played the modern game, he'd be more suited for it. So it's a real shame that team there was kind of just not really remembered for how they played. And I guess they didn't really achieve much, but for the fans ruining it.
Yeah, so the manager at the time as well, in the 80s, was, I haven't actually heard of him before this, Ronald Greenwood.
Yeah.
He was a former West Ham manager as well. But yeah.
Yeah, I think he did something with the radio or so RAF maybe. But yeah, he was in World War II. Still a shame he couldn't have more success across Europe in the 80s than he did in the 40s, but there we go.
In our group, though, for that, because this was the first tournament which had 8 teams instead of 4. The previous incarnations had 4 teams going to the finals, and this had 8, so two groups of 4. We had Belgium, Italy, and Spain in our group. So obviously the levels there and the teams are, the top teams in Europe at the time. You don't get, like, obviously nowadays I don't want to name names of countries, but yeah, you get like sort of lower opposition, shall we say.
We want names. Go on. Yeah, and I also think that with the Euros and international tournaments, there's been a lot of changes internationally since World War II, that the borders and countries are being recognised, or they're joining other countries and becoming bigger countries. So, for example, come 88, it's the last time the Soviet Union itself will ever compete in an international sports tournament, football tournament, because obviously the Berlin Wall comes down and then Russia's formed and other smaller countries are formed around it. So in that first tournament, you mentioned Yugoslavia. If we look today, I think there is, like, my Eastern European knowledge isn't the best, but if you look at the countries in that sort of areas such as Serbia, you got Albania, you got Croatia. There's all these different countries. I should have probably researched this a little bit better, but probably 20, 30, 40 years ago, these countries were part of different they would have had a different name, and the country would have had a bigger pool of people to pull players in from.
Yeah.
So as the tournament's grown and allowed more teams in, it's probably quite reflective of how actually the continent itself has grown. There's more countries within the continent now than what there used to be.
Yeah. Yeah, so 1980, just run through in the games. We drew with Belgium 1-1. Ray Wilkins scored. We lost to Italy 1-0. And then we beat Spain 2-1 with Trevor Brookin getting the goal. And also Anthony Woodcock, who was playing for Forest, the striker for Forest, German. Sorry.
See, my old man told me that Kevin Keegan was the top goal scorer in the 80s goals group stages of the Euros. You never mentioned his name once. Then is he spinning me a yarn? Did he actually score? Can you see?
I mean, there was
stats?
obviously qualification games.
Yeah.
So perhaps, he was the top goal scorer in the qualification games. He did go into the tournament as England's captain.
Yeah.
For that tournament. So
he was playing abroad back then. Do you know who he was playing for?
He was playing for Hamburger.
Yeah.
Hamburg.
I'd play for hamburgers.
So yeah, then England didn't make the 1984 European Championship.
Boo.
This team was again 8 teams.
Mm.
And the champions of this one was France for winning their first title. With a goal scorer was Platini with 9 goals throughout the whole tournament. I think this is the one where Platini sort of, took France on his back and become that sort of main man for France.
He's sort of soured his reputation now because hasn't he been done for corruption within FIFA?
Yeah. So him with Plata, but at the
Stop
time he was loved.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, we could quickly go through. So he scored in the first game against Denmark. This is a France home tournament as well, so it's in France. Then France beat Belgium 5-0. Platini scoring a hat-trick. Semi-final, they won 3-2 with Platini again scored a hat-trick. So back-to-back games.
I see. I'm not buying this because it was held in France, and he keeps scoring all these. I can smell a rat.
I don't know, but in the semi-final they played Portugal, won 3-2. Platini got 1 goal, and in the final he scored again. So what a tournament that is from Platini, 9 goals.
Yeah, he bought it. He paid for it. So are we going to 1988 this time?
Yes, 1988, England back in it.
It's an interesting time. I need to add this in. 1988. It's being held in. Was it East Germany or West Germany? I think it was West Germany.
Yep, held in West Germany.
Okay, so that's quite prominent because come 1990, the Berlin Wall falls, and Eastern Germany. Because after World War II, quick history lesson. After World War II, basically Germany's divided into half between the West, as in Europe, the Allies, the UK, USA, and the East, the Russians. So Eastern Germany is shut off from Western Germany. Eastern Germany's economy is communist, whereas the West is the capitalist system, and it's shrouded in mystery. The whole the massive country that was Germany has just been split completely into two. And come 88, it's going to be the last time a sport, I believe, once again a football event is held in West Germany. After that, it shortly becomes known as we know it today as just Germany. So, yeah, I don't know what the East and West Germany games were like, if they ever played each other, if they ever had any derbies.
Yeah, so they famously played a World Cup game.
Okay.
I'm not going to say when. I think it was either 66 or 62, and East Germany beat them 1-0.
Right.
I remember it was a really famous game where West Germany, obviously, they were the powerhouse of football, that in international football at that stage.
Was that like Beckenbauer days?
Yeah, and they played East Germany in a World Cup game, and famously they won 1-0.
Okay, cool. So 88's in Germany. How did we get on, Dylan?
So we came bottom of our group. We lost 1-0 to Republic of Ireland in our first game.
Okay. Yeah. Was that in Stuttgart?
Yes, so Robson was our manager.
There's a famous song by an Irish singer called Christy Moore, and it's about that game and the Irish beating the English, because obviously we know there's a little bit of a rivalry between Ireland and England. That's not always friendly sometimes. It comes from a lot of history that we don't have to delve into. But if anyone has sort of like sympathetic Irish roots and they want to hear the famous song from Christy Moore, it's called Joxer Goes to Stuttgart, and it just sums up the Irish feeling and the joy from that win. There we go. I thought I'd add that in.
Fair play for our Irish viewers.
Well, you've got some in there, Deals.
Yeah, we do, didn't we?
Yeah, definitely.
I was actually going to try and see the squad because I've seen that Brian Robson scored in our next game against Netherlands where we lost 3-1.
I've got the squad here if you want me to read it out.
Yeah, read it out. I'd like to see who we got.
So we have got Peter Shilton's still knocking around. He's playing for Derby at this point. He's 38. Gary Stevens, defender from Everton. Kenny Sampson, Arsenal defender. Neil Webb, Nottingham Forest midfielder. Dave Watson, Everton. A young Tony Adams. He's 21 at this point.
Yeah, I was going to say he scored in the last game of the group.
That's mad that he played then, because I can remember him playing, it feels like quite late into my childhood. Like he was still turning up for Arsenal. Brian Robson was the captain, Manchester United fame. Trevor Stevens, Everton. Peter Beardsley, Liverpool, he was 27 at the time. Gary Lineker was 27 and he was at Barcelona.
Wow.
You had John Barnes, he was at Liverpool still. Chris Waddle, Chris Woods, not the one from today, obviously. Viv Anderson, Steve McMahon.
Oh, the Liverpool player.
Yeah, but not
the nasty one in midfield.
But not Steve McMahon and Munn. Just for the younger viewers who might be getting
Steve
confused.
McMahon.
Yeah, that's the one. Peter Reid.
Oh yeah.
Glenn Hoddle's 30. He's applying his club trade in Monaco. Some chap called Mark Haitley, who's also playing at Monaco. Mark Wright, not the geezer from Towie. And Tony Dorigo. He's a Chelsea player. He's 22 at the time. He's a defender.
Not the one that's on TalkSport, is it?
No, you're thinking of Tony. He played for Ireland. He did.
Oh right.
I forgot his name.
It's like a funny name, isn't it? Mascarino or something like that.
Yeah, Cascarino.
Cascarino.
He's got some hilarious stories about his time with Ireland. But yeah, Tony Dorigo. There we go.
Yeah, so for that tournament, I think you said earlier when we was messaging about this, Netherlands won it, and it was their only title to this day. Is that correct?
Yeah. So you know how like everyone looks at the Premier League and they go the Big Six. They talk about the Big Six clubs. Dylan, who are the Big Six clubs?
It used to be top four, but yeah, now it's Big Six. It'd be United, City, Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, Spurs.
Why are Spurs in that list?
I don't know.
Well, it's like, you know how everyone goes on about Holland being this, every tournament they're in, it's like, oh, Holland might win it. Holland could do this. Holland could do that. Holland have only ever won a 1988 European Championships. That's it.
Well, they got to the final twice for Cruyff.
Yeah. Well, in this team, they had Rijkaard. They had Koeman, Van Basten, Gullit, however you want to pronounce it. They had the other Koeman. Like this is a serious team.
Yeah, it's surprising, isn't it? They've just won that sole 88 European Championships.
It is really.
A country that brings so much talent to the world of football. Maybe they'll win this year.
I just had a quick look at the Irish team. Tony Cascarino was playing for Ireland in this competition with Ray Out and Paul McGrath. Now, Paul McGrath, I'm not sure if anyone's seen the Jack Charlton documentary. And the bit that it talks about Paul McGrath, it's well worth a watch. Fantastic, it's brilliant. Mick McCarthy's in this. Paki Bono said in. Tony Cascarino. Niall Quinn, a young Niall Quinn's there. He was playing for Arsenal at the time. Sorry, I'm just having fun looking at all the different players.
No, that's all right. It's interesting, isn't it? Because that was when Jack Charlton. Is that when he took over as manager, or is that later?
So Jack Charlton, going back to the Dom Revie being at Leeds, Jack Charlton was a stalwart in the defence for Leeds. And by the time he became manager, him and his brother Bobby and Jack, they had completely two different personalities. And they focus on this in the documentary. Jack sort of shunned and overlooked a little bit by the English Football Association. So he goes and he takes the Irish job, and Ireland is a hot political mess at the time with the troubles in the north. And let's remember Jack Charlton, I don't think he's got any Irish heritage. He's an Englishman. He's an English World Cup winner. But he unites the country and he gets all the players playing for him. It's a brilliant documentary. I highly recommend watching it.
Players I've just seen. Roberto Mancini was playing for Italy. Matteus for Germany. Vialli, Klinsmann.
That Italian squad is pretty good. So you got Gianluca Vialli, Rizzatelli, Mancini. Let me try and feel just Carlo Ancelotti's playing. He's 29 at the time. He's in midfield. At the back, they got some kid called Paolo Maldini.
Oh, keep an eye on him.
Yeah, apparently he's meant to be quite good. Ferreira, Bergomi, Baresi, and the goalkeeper is Walter Zenga. So that is some. Italy's got some footballing heritage.
Some great, legendary players.
There's a 24-year-old Peter Schmeichel playing for Denmark.
Well, as we're speaking about Denmark, let's crack on to the next one.
Yes.
1992. England hot off the heels after 1990 World Cup, just losing in the semi-final.
Yeah, how did we get on in this tournament, Dylan?
We got bottom of the group. 3 games, 2 draws, 1 loss. So we drew 0-0 to Denmark.
Yeah.
We lost 2-1. Oh, sorry, we drew again to France 0-0, and we lost 2-1 to Sweden.
Okay, so what's the squad like? Should we go through the squad? I've got it here.
So the manager was also Graham Taylor, and that was famously the game when he said he's lost me his job, and he blamed was it the linesman or something.
Well,
what's the squad?
Well, there is some very controversial pundits on here that seem to be very outspoken. And there is only one Manchester United player in the squad, so that's probably why they didn't do so good. They've got Alan Shearer. He's 21 at the time. He's playing for Southampton. David Batty. He's playing for Leeds. Now, David Batty is a bit like Ben White. He always gave the impression that he didn't like football. Alan Smith's playing. Arsenal Alan Smith. Paul Merson. He's 24. Neil Webb from Manchester United. That Tony DeRigo, he's at Leeds now. I'm probably butchering his name. I do apologise. Nigel Martin, goalkeeper. I remember him when I was younger.
Yeah.
Carlton Palmer, Andy Sinton, Gary Lineker, Nigel Clough, Trevor Stephen, David Platt, Mark Wright, Des Walker, Martin Keown's 25. God, he must have been old at the Battle of Old Trafford.
Yeah, he was. I think he says like 38 that year.
Stuart Pearce, he's 30 in this competition. Chris Curl, Chris Woods, and Tony Daly.
This seems to be like a sort of a transitional time for England after 1990. Also, we didn't really kick on. So we've got Gary Lineker coming to an end.
Yeah.
He's 31 years of age. He's playing out in Japan at that stage. And that's who was having
Yeah,
issues with his toe, wasn't it, or something?
yeah. I think he got chased out of Europe after the whole wiping incident on the pitch. He had to go as far away as he could, and that was Nagoya Grampus 8 in Japan. Looking at this squad, there's not many, like, for example, I suppose Merson, but like in the earlier 80s competitions, even the ones we didn't really qualify for, you still had players like Hoddle playing, like creative players. And a massive theme for me since I was a kid was England's creative player at that tournament. So we had Gazza, Beckham, Rooney, and now it seems like we're inundated with creative outlets.
Well, Gascoigne would have been available unless he was injured around this time.
Well, he's not in this squad. He's not in this squad.
Because he
I'm
just won
looking.
the 1991 FA Cup with Spurs, right? Or
Or something.
1990.
It looks well. He's not here. He's not here at the moment. And I think, yeah, there's not many players here that would keep you on the edge of your seat at the time. Maybe that's a bit unfair on Paul Merson because he was quite creative, but yeah, it's a bit of a bleak time for the squad, I'd say.
Yeah, and interestingly, Tony Adams isn't in that squad either.
No, because he comes back. Obviously, he's at the World Cup in '98.
Yeah, and also 96 he's there as well. But
Have you? Sorry to interrupt, but have you seen the French squad at this tournament? Can I read the French squad out, please? Because it's got some it's got some of the greats on there.
well, let's just say the French were third in the group and we drew with them. So who's in their team?
Okay, well, Bruno Martini, Amoros, Silvestri, and then there is a young 21-year-old Emmanuel Petit. Laurent Blanc, he's 26 at the time. Bernard Cassoni, Didier Deschamps, Frank Swazi, I don't really know who that is. I do apologise if I'm butchering any of these names. Then Jean-Pierre Papin, he is a very good player. He's 28 in this competition. Luis Fernandez, Christian Perez, Christopher Cacard, Basile Bolly, Jean-Philippe Durand, Fabrice Devers. I think I'm killing these names. Pascal Vieira. It's like Vieira, but it's got a U in there. Remegard, Gilles Rousset, Jocelyn Angloma, and then some 26-year-old Leeds player called Eric Cantona.
Oh, what talent.
So Cantona's known for not getting on with the French national team. He's kind of in the French media, he's known for being controversial. I think the management at the time didn't like him.
Do you know who the manager was?
Who was the
Platini.
Well, there we go. Cantona's a man of the people. He's non-corruptible. Platini, him and Sepp Blatter are catching notes at press conferences.
That's a great team. But they didn't get out the group. Sweden topped the group in ours, and Denmark. So bit of a. I'm sure they weren't the favourites going into the tournament to top the group. Them two, and the other group, Netherlands and Germany went through. Scotland came third. That Scotland team must have been decent with Ali McCoist in there.
Yeah, and this is the Germany team, as in Germany, not East or West. This is Germany now.
Yes.
That's cool. So
Scotland team, sorry, Duncan Ferguson was in there, age 20.
I bet it's still hard.
Gary McAllister, 27.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Ali McCoist, 29, from Rangers.
I've got a list here, and it says Jim McAnally and Derek White, but I looked at it too quickly, and then I saw Jim White, and I was like, "Oh, you did actually play football." And I corrected. No, he's just a gobshite and talk sport. Oh, there's a young, well, not young. Brian McClare's playing for him.
Oh yeah, age 28. But yeah, sorry. So this is quite interesting going through all the squads and stuff.
It is, because I can see now, for example, a young Dennis Bergkamp, age 23, still playing for Ajax, is in that Dutch team. Frank de Boer is 22. Ruud Gullit's still there at 29. Rijkaard's still there at 29. Van Basten. Danny Blind, father of Daley Blind.
Yep. Yeah, and then so the winners were Denmark, and if you remember from the game, they won 2-0 against Germany, and on that game they kept passing it back to Schmeichel and he'd pick it up, and from that game they had the pass back rule, so you couldn't pass it back to a keeper and he couldn't pick it up anymore.
Would you like a little bit of trivia?
Go for it.
Denmark weren't meant to be in the tournament. I think they got in because Yugoslavia was disqualified due to the Yugoslavian war.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So when people say let's leave politics out of football, I understand their sentiment. But looking back at all these tournaments, football's literally riddled with politics.
It is, isn't it?
It's everywhere.
Yeah, so Denmark won the championship, having qualified only after Yugoslavia was disqualified as a result of the breakup of the country and the ensuing warfare there. Well, we'll rack on to Euro 96, probably one of the best tournaments for England.
It's coming home. It's coming football. Yeah, so 96 is the first football tournament I can sort of remember. I remember being in the car with Nan and Grandad, and there was a tape of the Lightning Seeds and Frank Skinner and David Baddiel. Or it was just Frank Skinner and David, and it was the 3 Lines on the Shirt song. And it was on a tape, and I remember listening to it and just getting very, very excited that whole summer.
Getting hyped.
Yeah. I had a little cousin on the way, I think, as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
he would have been born, wouldn't he?
Well, I imagine I had 6 years apiece, and then all of a sudden, like, all these cousins start rocking up.
Anyway, Terry Venables was the manager for England.
Yes.
We had a great look at these names. We had David Seaman, 32, from Arsenal. Gary Neville, young Gary Neville, 21 years of age, from Manchester United. Stuart Pearce, 34, from Forest. Paul Ince, who's playing at Inter Milan at the time. Tony Adams back in the squad at age 29, obviously at Arsenal. And then a young Gareth Southgate, age 25 as well, Aston Villa.
Yeah, poor Gareth.
This
whole tournament shapes his life.
David Platt, Gascoigne, Shearer, Sheringham, Darren Anderton, Steve Howie, Tim Flowers, Nick Barmby, who I saw the other week in the England-Brazil game in the Hilton lift. I add that in.
What was he like?
He was right. He was with his wife. I think it was like a celebration from obviously Terry Venables passed away, so a lot of the '96 team came down for the game, to clap and probably have a nice dinner or something for him.
Yeah.
And somehow, he came in the lift and with his wife.
Wow. Well, let's hope it's his wife.
Yeah.
Not someone else's.
Jamie Redknapp was in the squad, age 22. Sol Campbell, age 21. Steve McManaman, Les Ferdinand, Phil Neville, Steve Stone, Robbie Fowler, and Ian Walker.
So that team it's got the seeds for that golden generation that's coming up in a couple of years' time. I think Venables picking Gary Neville, and it looks like Phil Neville was one of the reserve players in the squad, or if he did actually make the final squad. I don't know how it worked with the actual numbers, if you had to do cuts at certain times. But to pick those young players like Robbie Fowler, Phil Neville, Gary Neville, Venables was quite forward thinking. I was always rather surprised that he didn't lead us into '98, the World Cup in '98.
Yeah,
I think there was some sort of like issue, controversy, a bit like a big Sam Allardyce when he got caught with that pint of wine. I think something a bit dodgy happened maybe somewhere, but the way he set his teams up, the way he played, he was quite a forward-thinking manager.
Yeah. I was to say, we had Robbie Fowler 21, Jamie Redknapp 22, Nick Barmby 22.
Sol Campbell's 21.
Yes, there's a lot of youngsters in that, but then there's obviously a lot of youth, a lot of experience with Gascoigne 29, Platt 29, Adams 29, Pearce 34, Seaman 32.
Don't you think it's funny how, like, if you look at Gazza, he was obviously... Gazza's issues are well known. He has his troubles, his demons. He was 29. Teddy Sheringham was 30. Teddy Sheringham's career seems to have just gone on and on. And Teddy Sheringham hadn't even reached Manchester United at this point. I know I'm a Man United fan, I sound biased, but he literally won the treble with Manchester United, his highest honours. And he was still at Tottenham at this point. So maybe not enough credit's given to Teddy Sheringham as a player sometimes.
I think so, yeah. I mean, did he retire in 2008? Was that
Something
right?
like that.
2006?
Well, yeah, he's apart from David Seaman, he's the oldest man in this team. Oh no, apart from Stuart Pearce and David Seaman, he's the oldest man in the team. I'm going to see someone else's name in a sec. I'm going to be like, apart from David Seaman, Stuart. But yeah, at the age of 30, how come he wasn't more prevalent in the earlier tournaments? I wonder.
You think of the players we're missing this team though as well.
Right,
Andy Cole.
Andy Cole,
Right.
Ian Wright.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's loads. We started off with a one-all draw against Switzerland with Alan Shearer scoring.
Yes.
And they got an equaliser with a penalty.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know who gave away the penalty?
Was it one of the Nevilles?
If the Nevilles can play for England, so can I.
Who gave away the penalty?
It was a disputed handball by Stuart Pearce.
I knew it.
Yeah, so 1-1 that one, and then Scotland v England.
Oh yes,
The Shearer and Gascoigne moment.
The magic, the magician, what happened on that day wasn't just a goal being scored, but that goal itself is art. That's up there with the Expressionists, with Monet, with Van Gogh, with Beethoven's classics. There's times in football where some magic happens, and it is art. And that goal by Gazza, it's tremendous.
It was a great goal. And the dentist chair celebration. Was it correct that Seaman saved the penalty just before?
I don't know. I can't remember. If we were doing World Cups and we got to 98, I could tell you everything up to the moment I cried when we lost against Argentina. But yeah, 96 is still rather vague. You tell me, was that the one where Seaman saved the penalty just before the?
I thought it was.
Do you know why the dentist chair celebration happened?
Yeah, wasn't it something that happened pre-tournament?
Yeah,
night out.
Yeah. Right? The England players, I think there was a little bit of a different culture back then to what there is now. And I think they got photographed on the lash. And the dentist chair was, I'm going from my memory here, but almost like sat back in a club taking shots in like a chair, sort of.
Probably England's best performance, do you think, with the Netherlands 4-1 win?
Yeah.
Shearer, Sheringham, both 2 goals apiece. Kluivert scored for Netherlands.
This England team has got it all. And like I say, it's the start of the golden generation. You see players cropping up in there. It's even got Jamie Redknapp in there. How, I don't know. But it's got everything. I think when you got a team with, you look at the names there, you got some very good technical players, and then you've got some players who are absolute leaders. So Stuart Pearce and Tony Adams, Paul Ince. Those guys as running a team, I can imagine Terry Venables didn't really need to do a lot, because then the blokes behind them are the likes of David Seaman, Gareth Southgate, David Platt, Alan Shearer. Everyone in that team is a decent footballer for one. A lot of them are leaders, and some of them are extremely talented,
Yeah.
i.e. Paul Gascoigne.
Just slipping through the squads as well, like the French squad we mentioned earlier. There's a young 23-year-old called Zinedine Zidane playing in this tournament for the French side.
What happened to him? Did he make it?
I think he headbutted someone in his last game. And
Classic. Over emotional French. You can say that. You can still, you can take the mickey out the French. We're allowed. They do it to us. Ask them about our food. They'll start laughing. Do you know other young players in this tournament? He went as an injury replacement for Frank de Boer. Very young Jaap Stam.
Jaap Stam. I saw as well Van der Sar was in that Netherlands side.
Yeah, he wasn't young. He was 25 in '96. So once again, come 2008, when he's winning the European Club Championship with United.
Yeah, retired at 40, wasn't it?
Yeah, that we need to look at that Dutch side, because we know that England beat them, but some of the players in that squad, the Dutch squad, unbelievable. So you've got
I've just seen it.
Cocu. You've got Jordi Cruyff, Ed de Hoy, the Chelsea goalkeeper back in the day. I'm not saying that he's a reason why they're unbelievable. For some reason, whenever I think of Ed de Hoy, it makes me smile and laugh.
Is it the name that makes you laugh?
Yeah, but he also looked like a geography teacher in goal.
Oh, right.
Like, he had a bit of a receding hairline and a moustache. He looked like your mate's dad, just like got pulled out the crowd. Sorry, Ed, if you're listening. Danny Blind, Clarence Seedorf, Jaap Stam, Ronald de Boer, Edgar Davids, Patrick Kluivert, Dennis Bergkamp. It's a serious team, the Dutch.
You've got a young Seedorf, 20 years old.
Yeah.
That is a good Dutch side.
Still waiting for Manchester United to announce they've signed him.
Oh, Seedorf.
he was one of the rumours that kept on going around every year.
Oh, was he?
Him, mostly Batty but yeah. So that's Scottish team. Can I ask you a bit of a question? Do you know who the defender was who Gaza popped the ball over?
Tom Boyd?
No.
Go on. Who was it?
He had a bit of a Point Break, Patrick Swayze kind of hairdo, look, blonde hair. It was Colin Hendry.
Colin Hendry.
Yeah. He was quite a formidable defender. Played for Blackburn. And yeah, he's most unfortunate because Gaza just beautifully pops the ball over him.
Slots it in.
Yeah. He played his part. We all play our part in life.
So yeah, obviously England go through on the group top, and then we face Spain, was it, in the knockout stage?
How did we get on?
And we drew 0-0, went all the way to penalties, and then probably one of my favourite penalties is Stuart Pearce's when he scored. And it's just celebration. It's just like pure emotion after missing the penalty in 1990.
Have it.
And fun fact, Rafael Nadal's dad, I think, missed the penalty to send England through. Or uncle.
Oh. You didn't ace that one.
What did I say wrong?
No. You didn't say anything wrong. I made a joke.
Oh, so
He
it was
didn't ace
it was his uncle.
That one.
Oh, dear.
Nadal, tennis.
Oh, God.
Cut that shit. You got Luis Enrique in there. Fernando Herrero. Oh, he was a player.
And then, in the semi-finals, after getting off to a great start with Alan Shearer, seems to be England's way, getting a 1-0 win, 1-0 lead early in a big game. And then 1-1 goes to penalties, and Gareth misses the vital spot kick.
Yeah.
With Gascoigne missing that chance as well. When he, if he laid off the beers, he could have reached it. You never know. That's what they say, don't they?
Was that in this tournament? Was that in 90 in the World Cup?
I thought it was 96, wasn't it? I might have been 90.
Yeah, you can't believe that's in the past. I'm not.
I'll cut that.
Yeah, I don't know if it is Dylan. I don't know. I'm sorry. I had a feeling it might be 90 that he misses it for us to go
because
through.
I think he was wearing a white kit.
That German team, it's got Oliver Kahn in there. Klinsmann still playing. Yeah, we should have beaten that team quite comfortably.
And then Germany win 2-1 against Czech Republic after extra
okay.
time. On the first golden goal, I remember, in the 95th minute. It was Oliver Bierhoff.
Okay. Now, it surprises me because if I had to pick a favourite for this competition before the competition has started, it would have been the Italians. And I should tell you for why, and I'll read out their team. Well, I won't read out all their team. I'll just read out some of the players in this team. So you got Maldini's the captain. He's 27 in his prime. Costa Curta, Alessandro Nesta, Albertini. Albertini's a hell of a player. Dino Baggio, Del Piero, Roberto Di Matteo, Chiesa, Ravanelli, Zola, and Bucci. Like, he's the replacement goalkeeper. The defence in that team is possibly one of the best defences that football's ever seen. In the three, that is Nesta, Costa Curta, Maldini. Unbelievable.
And when did they come? They came third in the group. 1 win, 1 draw, 1 loss.
Wow. Tournament football is brutal.
Portugal actually came top of their group. In Group D.
Interesting.
Anyway, we'll move on to the next one.